I think I've found the best budget professional lighting system. And bear with me here, there's some caveats to this, there's some pros, there's some cons, there's a lot of money to be saved. But bear with me whilst we take a bit of a deep dive. We're not going to get super nerdy on the tech side of things. This is going to be purely from a practical, functional, professional photographer's usage point of view. I'm not going to start talking about T0.1 scores and the benefits of different types of capacitors. That's not what I'm about here. What we're about is professional photography and running a business. And this is something I think we should really be looking at because lighting is expensive. And of course, you can buy a light for £20. Replace pounds with dollars if you need to. But the lights we use on commercial jobs are called Broncolor Scoros, and they come with these lovely heads. The heads, which are these bits here, they cost me £2,000 each, and the packs cost £12,000 each. On a commercial job, we might have 6 packs and 10 heads. That's a lot of money. Now, of course, we rent it. We don't buy that stuff because in between the big jobs, it's just sat around depreciating. But in my studio here, which is where I do my creative work, my test shoot work, it's basically an over-engineered man cave. But in this place here, I need good lighting. I can't afford to spend £70,000 on Broncolor kit, but it has to be good kit, which is where this comes in. This is Godox and Pixapro. Now, Pixapro are a UK distributor for Godox. It's the same equipment, but this is just where they sell it here. They also do repairs here as well, which is great because if you're going to spend, and I'll say this is budget kit, it's still expensive. You want to know you can get it repaired still, which is very important. But if you're going to buy this stuff, it's good to know there's somebody at the end of a phone that you can talk to and say, hey, got this problem, can we fix it? And they'll sort you out. That's very important. This lighting kit over here is my lighting kit. This lighting kit over here, I had to beg, steal and borrow. Very hard to get hold of a test version of these because again, yes, they're very cheap, but they're cheap for what they are. This pack and this head are £5,000. And I know you're going, that's not a budget lighting kit, Scott. It is compared to £12,000. It is less than half the price of a Broncolor Scoro. It's not as good, but it's almost there. This light here, this is £1,500 pack and head, and it does other stuff. So let's look at this. Let's go in for a deep dive. This is going to be some nerdy stuff. It's not going to be relevant to 99% of the population out there, but if you want to be a pro photographer, this is probably for you. Now, first of all, I've been shooting on this kit, as you can see from how battered it is, for the last 2 years. This is my AD1200. You can put a battery in it and you can mains power it. It is great. I like it because what we do is, we take this out, this is the mains adapter, we put a battery in it, we get it all set up so there's not cables everywhere. Then when we're ready to go, plug it in, lock it down, good to go. But there's a problem with this. It can only take 1 head per pack, which, bit of a nuisance, not a deal breaker. The other problem is it's only 1200 watts. And you're probably going, well, I've got a 600 watt light and I'm fine with that, Scott. 1200 watts is not enough for a commercial shoot. It very rarely is. By the time you've fixed all the things that the client wants fixing, you've eaten up a lot of light. Now, of course, when we're shooting by ourselves, we go, oh, we make it look like this and like that. It looks beautiful, brilliant, 1200 watts, good to go. Client comes in and goes, we have that shadow a bit more on the right-hand side. You start putting a flag in place and you've just lost 30 watts. Can we have a little bit more reflection on this side, but less on that side? You put some scrims, some silks, some blockers, some dabbers, some fingers, some whatever you got's going on in there, and you've lost 400 watts. And before you know it, and then you've got your bellows system out, and you're at F22, don't get in the comments about diffraction. This is not enough. So this light here is great, but it's not always enough. This is 2,400 watts. It sounds like a lot more than 1,200. It's only one stop. It's like going from F8 to 5.6. or 200 ISO to 100 ISO. So it sounds like a lot, it's not that much more, but it makes a difference. It's one of those sweet spots in flash. It's like 2,400 is pretty good. Now, the Broncolor packs we use are 3,200, and they also do a head like this, which comes out in 2 cables that you can plug 1 cable into each pack and get 6,400 watts, which is something we honestly quite often do. I've never used that much light in a test shoot, but it is often the case in commercial work. And this is for test shooting. Now let's have a quick look at what we get here. The head is pretty good. It is predominantly plastic. I'm never sure whether that's good or bad. The Broncolor lights have a lot of metal on them. This is a lot of plastic. It's got a zoom head, so you can move the light position, which if you're a still life photographer, is very useful. It's pretty light, which is also great. So the difference between having a pack and having a big monoblock is the weight. All of the electrics really from here are sat in this big monster. The only downside to this that we've come across is that when you tighten this, so we've got a heavy modifier on it, it'll just start to tilt down. You have to really over tighten it. I'm not sure how that will age, but we can always get it repaired, which is great. Now the pack itself. My first annoyance, and this is not specific to these, is that it takes a non-standard kettle lead. The Broncolor ones are the same. I'm sure there's a scientific reason for the electronics to work, which is, but it's annoying that you have to have that sort of cable, just because every other cable in here is just a standard kettle lead. It has 2 ports, we can run 2 flashes off it. Now, just for clarity, if you put 2 flashes in, you don't get 2,400 watts on each flash, you get 2 1,200 watt heads. Pretty cool. It has got 2 PC sync ports on here, which is very useful. Often when we're shooting in really big studios, or even here because of what one of the businesses upstairs does, wireless triggers don't work so well. And if we've got a top down and a 45-degree setup, we'll run 2 PC sync cables into the pack. Before, we'd have to kind of like plug one in, pull it out, plug it in, pull it out. Bit of a pain, not ideal. It also has a USB-C bit here for firmware updates and all that good stuff. On and off, very simple layout. You don't need to read the instructions to use this, which is great because say we ended up using these on a commercial job, one of the reasons why I'd be hesitant to use a brand like Godox in a commercial job is not build quality, it's not the ability for the kit to work well or the quality of the light, it's none of that. It's that every assistant in London knows how to use Broncolor and ProPhoto. They just know it inside out. And that's a real, it's one of those things that when you're looking at a camera review or something like that, you don't really think about, but actually that's really important. If you can walk in anywhere and get it working, that's great. But this was so simple, I didn't have to read the instructions at all. We've got channel 1 and channel 2 for the 2 different lights. You can get them to do different powers and all the rest of it. Very good. But what really matters here is colour accuracy and freezing motion. Now we did a big shoot, it was a huge shoot for a test shoot, it was rather elaborate, we had lots of people in here working on it. It was a very Wes Anderson vibey shoot. We used a huge 150 megapixel camera, it was like the best camera money can buy, and because of that we had this light on full power, like absolutely full power all day. That's what we needed, which is great because this gave us that power. If I was using my other light, it wouldn't have worked. We'd have to use the big old 3200 Broncolor packs I've got, which are a little bit past their best. They were made in the 80s, much like me, and we're getting a bit ropey at this point, but that's fine. So we use this here. Now, this has 3 modes of color accuracy. It has the sort of, we're doing high speed flash, and all honesty, the colour accuracy is all over the place. It has, we're doing ordinary flash and the colour accuracy is pretty good. And then it has a colour accurate mode where it goes, look mate, make sure this is perfect every time. And that was perfect every time. So this is one of those really important things when you're using one light, doesn't matter so much. If we're doing a one light setup and we've got some splash shots and the colour temperature's all over the place, we just correct it in post because we only have one light. If, however, and this is where people get a little bit confused, if we have 3 lights and the colour accuracy is all over the place, that's a problem because I guarantee you this one will go plus 200, the next one will go minus 200, and the one in between will go plus 30, at which point, if they all start ping-ponging between them at where they're going to be, you can't correct it. You'll have a blue catch light here, an orange catch light here. It's a nightmare. But if you're just doing a single light setup, colour accuracy is not that important because it's consistent across the frame. That's pretty good. I also ran it at all the different powers. We took 10 frames at each power, I metered it. It was exactly as you'd want it to be. There was no deviation between them. At the lower powers, it's often a bit hit and miss, but this pack here worked remarkably well. During the test shoot, we shot 247 frames and we had 1 flash misfire, which is hard to say. Now, the flash misfire could have happened for many, many reasons because we were using a bellows camera, we had to cock the shutter, close the shutter, tell the digital back to get ready for a PC sync flash, come out of the PC sync flash into the PC sync cord and the digital back to the flash. There's a lot to go wrong and there's a lot of human error involved. It could have been my fault, but there was 1 flash misfire. Now, I've shot Broncolor for years. They misfire. They do. Every now and again, the trigger goes to sleep, the cable just doesn't get its pop, whatever it may be, they do misfire. I don't see that as a deal breaker. What would be a deal breaker in terms of really high-end shoots, and when I say really high-end shoots, I'm talking like the photographer getting 30 grand plus a day, is that if we're doing a drink shoot with splashes and we had 3 of these and they're running those fast flash durations, that color accuracy wouldn't work for me. I'd have to use Broncolor because they are stable. But, and I think this is really relevant, in my studio here, if I'm doing a test shoot, I can either rent Broncolor in, which is expensive because I'm not in London, or I can buy some of these. And yes, it's not perfect, but it is good enough. And I think this is a real underrated thing as being good enough. I can make this work. I can create work good enough to get those big jobs with this. I can't create the big jobs with this, but I can create the work that's good enough with this. Now, if I was running a studio which wasn't producing work at that price per day, if I was doing maybe 2 grand a day, 5 grand a day, this is absolutely more than good enough. And you might be thinking, well, this is Godox's first foray into this sort of lighting system. It's not. Bowen's was made by Godox back in yesteryear. They had the Creo packs. The Creo packs were amazing. You still find them on eBay. They're like absolute workhorses. They do have a proven track record with this. It's not like they've suddenly gone, let's build a pro pack, this will be grand. They've done it before, they've done it with great success, and this is really a great bit of kit because of that. It has all the functionality, it has the high power, it has the short flash duration, it has the color accuracy setting, it has all these great abilities. There's the odd weird thing it can't do that the Pro Packs can. It's things like ping-ponging and stuff like that, but I mean, I've used that once in my entire career. Like, is it worth spending an extra £7,000 per light to get that feature? Or do you just rent it in when you need it? What I see this pack doing, what I see this system being for, is the hardcore commercial photographer who shoots high volume. If I had an e-commerce studio, this is what I'd want to be using. If I had a fashion studio, I'd be using this because we're going through such volume, we're shooting every day, it would really get its work cut out for it. But the question is, am I going to buy this? Because part of the reason I'm borrowing it is because I want to see if I want to buy it. And the answer is no, I'm not going to buy these because I like these too much. They're not as powerful. I know I've said the problem with this is it doesn't give out enough power. And it's very hard to tell you the exact reason why. A lot of it comes down to cost though. £1,500, £5,000. I can get 3 of these to 1 of these, and I have no shame in bumping my ISO up to 200. That will work for me. Commercially, if I started shooting commercially a lot in this studio, if clients started coming here to Leicester, I'd buy some of these. I'd get 3 of these and have them in my studio with 6 heads. That would be the purchase I'd make. If we were shooting in here, I'd get this. I'd spend 15, 16 grand on these, but I'm not. That's not what my business looks like. I go to London shoot and we always rent. I'm gonna go and buy a load of these now. That's my next purchase. We're gonna go online, pick them up from Pixapro. These are the City 1200 Pros. They're great. Not that these aren't, but as a business decision for me, this is what I'm going for the studio. I hope this video has been of use to you. If there's any kits you want me to look at from the point of view of a business, a professional use, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.